do the sex.
Today's Masturbation Monday topic is how to self-pleasure, aka masturbate, for the SHAPESHIFTER Blueprint type. Now, if you have been listening to Masturbation Monday for the last several weeks, you know that my guest, somatic sexologist, erotic educator, and embodiment facilitator, AveryDean Swift, has been joining me to teach us all how to self-pleasure for our erotic blueprint type. Now, if you've been on this podcast for a while, you may or may not have caught our in-depth podcast episode on what erotic blueprints are. But in short, and we're going to go into this later, the erotic blueprints are a set of maps that help us find the path to our eroticism, our turn-ons, and hopefully our orgasmic satisfaction at some point in time. And by learning what your erotic blueprint type is, or your partner's is, you are going to be able to tap into and pleasure yourself better and pleasure others better, which really means you're going to become the best lover you can be. And that's what we're here to help you do, whether you are your own lover primarily, like I am currently, or you are with somebody else. I mean, both things are important, right? We want to have our own pleasure and satisfaction, but we also want to be good lovers. So before we go on, I'm going to have AveryDean tell you a little bit about themselves and what we're doing today with the SHAPESHIFTER Blueprint type.
Thanks, Annette. My name's AveryDean Swift. I use they and them pronouns, and I'm a coach, a facilitator, an erotic educator, and a holder of healing and transformational spaces for folks who really want to build the lives of their dreams. The focus in my world is pleasure, ease, and joy. And I've been a certified and licensed erotic blueprint coach for a little over 4 years now. I trained with Jaya directly, and the erotic blueprints were created through Jaya when she learned, after over a decade of working with bodies through somatic sexology and specifically sexological body work, she witnessed how bodies tend to move within these kind of 5 core blueprint types, as she called them, in the way that our turn on, our arousal, our erotic energy moves and is expressed through us. Now, some of them we're really familiar with, and others of them we don't always necessarily think of as being erotic or sexual. And so, like Annette was mentioning, the more we understand about the way this kind of arousal and turn on can be sparked in our system, the more pleasure we can experience for ourselves, and the more we can meet any lover, no matter how they experience their arousal and their turn on. So these 5 erotic blueprint types, which we've gone through 4 of them already, we started with the energetic, then we talked about the sensual, then we talked about the sexual, which is the one most of us are most familiar with. It's what we're most exposed to. Then we talked about the kinky, which most of us have at least heard of. And today we're going to talk mostly about the shapeshifter. So the shapeshifter type is kind of a mix of all the other 4 types in one. So a shapeshifter type is turned on by all the things, by the tease and anticipation of the energetic, by the touch and the sound and the taste and the sights and the smells of the 5 senses, like the sensual, is turned on by the penetration, the direct genital stimulation, contact, and fucking of the sexual, and is turned on by the taboo and the intensity of the kinky type. The core difference of that shapeshifter type, kind of one of the key superpowers of that shapeshifter type, is nearly unlimited capacity for expansive erotic pleasure and orgasmic satisfaction. And there's this more-ishness to the shapeshifter, where the shapeshifter kind of wants all of it all at once. They want to have their hair pulled while they're getting a massage, while they're smelling wonderful smells, while a lover is hovering near them without actually touching. They want to have all these things kind of happening at the same time. If that sounds like way too much for you, then you might not be a shapeshifter type. If that sounds overwhelming for your system, then shapeshifter isn't your core type. Now, someone can expand into, as we've been talking about these last few weeks, someone can expand into all of the other 4 erotic types and be sort of like a shapeshifter, but still not be an actual shapeshifter type. So the key difference there is that I want it all and I want it all at once. And I could go for 4 hours and then take a break and have a snack and maybe a shower, maybe a nap, and then keep going. That capacity is just more and more and more. And it's almost like the more we have, the more expansive and the more pleasurable it becomes. So that's the true shapeshifter type. And the kryptonite, or the shadow side of the shapeshifter type, is really feeling like they're too much, or being told by partners or lovers or other people that they're too much. They're too loud. They want too much. They're never satisfied. It can feel intimidating for a partner or a lover who isn't a shapeshifter to try and satisfy a shapeshifter, because we can have back to back to back to back multiple orgasms and still be like, yes, I would take more, please. I would be happy to. Can we keep going? Are you ready for more? And someone who isn't a true shapeshifter is like, I'm tired. I'm tapped out. I'm ready to go for a run. I am ready to work on some other projects. And for a shapeshifter type, sinking into that vortex of orgasmic pleasure and the orgasmic energy, ooh, we could just marinate in that place for hours, for maybe days.
Right. I was going to say, do you, like, I am not an expert in this. You clearly are. And I wonder now, listening to you, because one thing I have shared in the previous episodes is that I think more recently I've realized I believe I'm a true shapeshifter blueprint. I think also something I experience is I love to have the eroticism like in all areas of my life. So in the bedroom with a partner is wonderful, but I kind of, because so many things for me feel erotic and I can feel it in so many different ways, like it sort of seeps into my entire life. And for people and partners who that isn't so, I think, especially in a shameful culture, it's like, oh, you're hypersexual. Have you ever, someone has, more than one person has been like, have you ever looked into sex addiction? And I'm like, no, I actually really I love the way it feels. And I love when I just allow myself to fully be my true self. I love how I move through the world. I'm like, why wouldn't everybody want this? Does that resonate when you hear that with the shapeshifter erotic blueprint type?
Absolutely. And that's exactly the shadow side, or the shameful piece of the shapeshifter type, and why many shapeshifters will shrink themselves to try to fit into the boxes of other people's expectations. But yes, a true shapeshifter recognizes and feels and experiences that erotic eros energy as part of our life force energy, part of what keeps us feeling alive and juiced up and turned on for life, not just turned on for sex. It's not that we're always looking around wanting somebody to touch our genitals or fuck us or get fucked by us. That's not necessarily the way a shapeshifter moves through the world, but a shapeshifter might be the kind of person that hikes up to the top of a crest or a mountain peak to witness a beautiful vista or a beautiful sunrise and is fully turned on by that experience, and maybe does want to have sex on the top of that mountain, even if it's cold or even if the rocks are pokey or whatever the case may be. Where a sensual type might also be turned on by a vista like that, but it might not make them also want to fuck. They might be overwhelmed if if it's too cold or if it's too hot, or if there's too many bugs, or if the rocks are too pokey and you can't find a comfortable way to make that work. Like, those things could all be barriers for a sensual type, even though they would love the vista. Where a shapeshifter is like, I don't even care. I can get over that. I can see past that. I'm so turned on. Let's do this.
I love shapeshifters. I mean, it makes everything in life just feel, I don't know, pleasure. You can find pleasure and satisfaction in so many different ways, which I love, and I do feel it for myself. And I've talked about it many times on this podcast that it, to me, sensuality, sexuality is really interwoven into every part of our living and
Yeah.
existence if we'll allow it to be, and if we don't allow the culture that's shamed us to like shove us down into this little ball of yucky shame. So this is exciting, and I'm excited to hear about how self-pleasure, because I can think of so many things right now, how self-pleasure and masturbation sessions can channel the shapeshifter. So let's do it. Let's talk about shape-shifting blueprint type and self-pleasure. Cheers. So take it away.
The shapeshifter type really is that, Annette. It is that type of person who recognizes, feels, and experiences our erotic energy as deeply connected and intertwined with our life force energy. And really, on this planet, on the entirety of planet Earth, so many animals and even plants reproduce in a sexual way. And so that to me is a marker of the real true sexuality of nature. Nature is erotic. Life makes more life through sex. Mm-hmm. So, of course, there's going to be an element of our life force energy that is really deeply intertwined with the erotic for many, many people. And yes, that shame, the prudishness, the slut shaminess of culture can make people feel like they're wrong or bad for having that level of expansiveness and that level of connection to the erotic. Now, of course, it's important to have good boundaries and not be over sexualizing things in a way that isn't helpful or isn't life-giving or nourishing or supportive. And we want to be careful not to trigger other people by making things overly sexual. And at the same time, we want to find that line of helping people actually get over some of the shame and stigma that keeps us small, that keeps us out of those places of orgasmic ecstasy, because really our bodies, the human body, is wired for pleasure. We have pleasure centers and pleasure capacity in every cell of our body, and so many of our nerve endings are wired for pleasurable sensation. The simple act of breathing can be sensual and erotic and pleasurable. And it's a necessary thing that we must do all day, every day in order to survive. So how do we take this into self-pleasure? Limitless capacity. So really, this could go in so many ways. It's about finding and dialing in what you find pleasurable. And really, for a shapeshifter, there's so much value in specifically and intentionally tapping into each of the blueprint types so that all of your system feels well nourished. Because one thing that commonly happens for a shapeshifter who's partnered, or who has, even if they have multiple lovers, is a shapeshifter will often shapeshift into the type of their lover. So they'll shapeshift into a sexual to be with someone who's a sexual blueprint type. And they might be having really good sex and really good orgasms and feel really satisfied on a lot of levels and still be like, why do I still feel like I'm starving? Why do I still feel like I'm not satisfied? I should be satisfied. We're having great sex, but there's still something that is missing. And especially if the partner is then saying, you're too much. You're impossible to satisfy. What's wrong with you that this isn't enough for you? That can really get internalized and make us feel like, oh God, what is wrong with me? Why isn't this enough for me? And it can feel really internally shameful. We can internalize that shame in a big way. So much value in learning how to nourish and pleasure ourselves in each of the different blueprint types. So we might even consider, I like to take this in a bit of a wave where I start with the energetic type. I begin with just slow, deep breaths, very lightly tracing my fingertips along my body, very gently feeling the sensation that is the result of that stimulation, and giving myself time and space to tease my body a little bit, not going straight for the genitals, but really starting with that energetic tease, building a little bit of anticipation. And maybe before I begin, I might also light a candle or two and turn on a particular playlist that helps me move through kind of an arc of the different blueprint types. I actually have a couple playlists of different lengths depending on how much time I have that can help me kind of move through each of the blueprint types so that I don't have to watch the clock or worry about what time it is, but I can just follow along with the music. And then in that energetic type, really allowing that spaciousness to deeply feel each sensation and let each sensation make its way through my whole system before I stimulate myself with another sensation. And then when I'm ready, I start to take that touch a little bit deeper, a little bit more like a massage. I might sip on a really, really delightful beverage and just feel the sensuality of the flavors on my tongue, or maybe delightful little morsels of sweet fruits or chocolate or whatever it is that's exciting to me in the moment, to really tap into both the smell and the taste sense, listening to the music, feeling the textures. This is a wonderful place to have soft, silky textures if that's what you like, or maybe fuzzy textures if that's what one likes. I have this little shirt on here that's got different textures. So as I run my hands over different parts of this top, I feel both different sensations on my sensitive fingertips and also different sensations where my fingertips touch my skin through some of the holes, but also through the fabric in different parts. And just playing with those different textures and how my system responds to the felt sense of those different textures. And maybe then I want to bring in a little bit of kinky. Maybe I start to think about what it might be like to take a hold of my own hair and give my hair a nice little pull. Or maybe turn my touch into something a bit more scratchy, a bit more intense. Or maybe I find something that I like the texture of. I'm a biter, so I might take something and put it between my teeth so I can feel that sense of feeling my teeth bite down on something. This can be a great place for multi-purpose toys. This one has, I'm holding one here that has a really soft, like furry side, and then a velour velvety side. And it's also got some boning in it so that it's pretty firm. So I can use this for different kinds of sensation on my body, as well as a little bit of impact and slappy sensation. So this toy can deliver multiple different blueprint types of sensation: energetic, sensual, kinky. And feeling all of that to get into the shapeshifter type, then I start to combine multiple of these parts at once. Hearing the sounds, touching my own body with different sensations, feeling the way the different sensations stimulate and move the energy through my body. And if I start having some energetic orgasms where it's like the quivering, the shaking through my system, I might spend some time and allow myself to, now I got them going and now they're going. But I can let those go for a little while and just feel the ripples of that energy and the way that it moves through my body and the way that it makes me start to sweat a little bit, makes my heart beat a little harder as all those sensations start to unfold and move in me. Another great place for toys when we're ready to move into the sexual blueprint type as well. Maybe I do want an insertable of some kind. Maybe I even want to insert something into my mouth if my mouth really likes stimulation. So this is where food can be really fun. A toy can be really fun. Maybe I want to penetrate different parts of me with those toys. Maybe I want some vibratory stimulation right on the glands. And maybe I want both. Maybe I want all of it all at once, because that is the true shapeshifter pleasure, is having all the things happening simultaneously. Music that turns us on, smells that turn us on, touch that turns us on, sensation that turns us on, genital stimulation directly that turns us on as we're rolling around and feeling the textures of the bed or the couch or the floor or the rug or wherever we've set ourselves up to have this experience. dual stimulation type toys that can deliver both a penetrative sensation as well as a vibration, maybe even on multiple parts of the body. For people with a vulva, there's lots of great toys like this that can deliver G-spot and cervical stimulation at the same time as vibration or even suction on the clitoris. Those are great shapeshifter toys, also really great for the sexual type. They can be great for any type who's into it, but that toy mixed with a bunch of different touch and sensation experiences is a great shapeshifter tool and toy. So when I really get into this, I like to tap into and awaken each blueprint type individually and then start bringing them all together. And when I bring them all together, those blended orgasms that are energetic orgasms mixed with internal stimulation orgasm. And for people that have a prostate, it can be a similar type of internal stimulation sensation while they're stroking their glands, their penis, and having my genitals stimulated at the same time. Sometimes I like to have a butt plug and a toy inside of me and something on my clitoris, and all of these things happening all at the same time while I've maybe got my fingers in my own mouth, or I'm sucking on something that really feels delightful to my senses, whether it's a toy or a candy or a piece of food. Really bringing multi-sensory stimulation in all at the same time. That's the shapeshifter.
Definitely anyone who's been on my channel knows those dual stimulators with the Pleasure Erotec mixed with the G-spot stimulation, A-spot stimulation womanizer blend, womanizer duo 2, my favorite. The nice thing is too that they can stay in place and you can continue to touch yourself in other places and stimulate and partake in other stimulation. And I love those. The blended orgasms are and I can ride them forever. I can continue to ride that for at least an hour. So.
And so again, yes, that is one of the marks of the true shapeshifter, is that more is actually better for the shapeshifter in this scenario. Now, more is not always better. We're taught often that more is always better, and it's not always true. Always and never, never always true.
Right.
But for a shapeshifter, more stimulation, more time spent in that orgasmic erotic energy is often both more nourishing, more satisfying, more stress relieving, and more life affirming and life giving. So these kinds of experiences for a shapeshifter can truly fill us up. Where for, say, a sensual type actually needs to be able to relax, and then they can open for more erotic energy, stimulation, and connection. Where a sexual or a shapeshifter, they actually need some of that penetration and the orgasms to help us relax.
And first of all, I want to focus on what you just shared and how you gave a beautiful step-by-step guide to a shapeshifter really nourishing themselves by being able to tap into all of these different blueprint types, which if you are partnered with someone who is like one clear blueprint type and has not yet expanded into others or learned how to be opened into others, and you love them very much and you want to be with them, but you're finding this sort of, lack of full satisfaction in the sexual realm, it's a beautiful way to do some self-nourishing while you work with your partner and teaching your partner, helping your partner learn how to meet more of your needs, especially if you're in a monogamous relationship. Right? Because I think I can fully speak to, it can be really hard to be a shapeshifter and be with someone who is not, and maybe is just kind of more one blueprint type, whether that's sexual or kinky. And they start to realize you want, need, can do more. And it can be very intimidating to them and even cause them to pull away or say things like, I don't think I can satisfy you. I can't meet your needs, when you are, especially if you are monogamous with them or monogamous minded and you're like, but I love you and I want to be with you and you are enough. It's just, I can't figure out why we're not fully connecting. So here's a great way for shapeshifters to self-nourish while working on the relationship and the compatibility with their partner, right? A
Exactly.
beautiful solution. That's why the series is so important, especially to my shapeshifting friends
Yes.
out there. And so, someone who's not a shapeshifter, would you suggest the same type of practice so that they can start to understand maybe a shapeshifting partner better? I guess that's what I'm curious about people who are love a shapeshifter, because I think a lot of people also are really attracted to and interested in shapeshifters and that energy, and then they get into it and
They're like, oh,
right, which is
yeah.
valid, but it also can be very hurtful to the
Yeah. And it can be hurtful on both
shifter.
sides, no matter
Mhm.
who's the shapeshifter and who's not. If the attraction and the arousal is there and people come together and then one of them is like, yay, and the other one's like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming and it's too much, there can be a lot of blame that happens and then a lot of shame that happens. And that can happen on both sides. It's not only one direction or another. So, what I would recommend for someone who isn't a shapeshifter, but who loves and wants to be with someone who is work on expanding into each of the blueprint types and do that with titration, small doses, until you find what you can actually find pleasurable in those blueprint types. So, for example, if someone who is a sensual blueprint type and they're really into the sensuality, get yourself really juiced up and turned on and aroused in the ways that are arousing for you. And then add in a little taste of something that's different, maybe a little taste of the energetic, or a little taste of the sexual, or a little taste of something kinky that you know your partner's into, and let your system start to associate that thing that's new and different and maybe that isn't what spontaneously turns you on. But we can learn to experience pleasure, arousal, and satisfaction in new and different ways. Just like we can learn how to play an instrument, we can learn how to play a sport. Sometimes when we start doing something new and different, the learning curve is like, this is uncomfortable. I don't actually like this because I'm not any good at it.
Yeah.
The same can be true with our erotic lives. So give yourself time to do little bits at a time and really kind of sandwich those things that are new and different, sandwich them between things that you know you find pleasurable, that you know you really, really like, so that you can learn how to experience pleasure in a broader way and learn how to meet your partner in the ways they want to be met and the ways that are really satisfying and nourishing for them. Another example might be if someone isn't a sensual type, they're not into that like deep massagey touch or a really long, delightful makeout session. If that doesn't sound fun to one person, but it does sound fun to their partner, how can you build in offering your partner the kind of sensual touch they need from a place of desiring to please them and a place of desiring for your partner to experience pleasure? Because once that partner's cup is full in that area that's been malnourished, where they're starving, once they get fed in that way, I can nearly promise you, in most cases, that's going to open that partner up to be like, oh, now that I'm fed and nourished, I have something to give. I can also come back and meet you in the ways you want to be met. And so recognizing, actually, Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent is a beautiful way to look at this. If you're not familiar with Betty Martin's Wheel of Consent, I encourage you to Google that, look it up. She talks about the ways that we give or take pleasure, the ways that we offer or receive. It's a really beautiful way to look at consent. And there's a way to do this where what I'm doing to another person isn't for my pleasure. And I know that it's not for my pleasure, but I'm actually doing it for my partner's pleasure and enjoyment. Not because I'm hoping to get something out of it, but because I actually want my partner to be nourished and fulfilled. And also maybe because I recognize that a nourished and fulfilled partner who feels seen and held and loved and supported by me is way more likely to offer me the nourishment, the love, the support that I want and need. And so if we can offer that to our partners, offer that to our people with no expectations, without needing it to be a quid pro quo of, hey, I gave you that massage, so now I need you to fuck me. That, that's not a great way to go about doing it. But if we can really say, you know what, I know that this nourishes you. Can we set a timer for like 15 minutes? Because that's probably all I can do. But I'd love to massage your back for 15 minutes. I'd love to massage your butt for 15 minutes. All of our hips and buns get tight, right? Especially when we sit a lot. Maybe massage your calves or your feet if you've been on your feet all day. And offering your partner that nourishment simply for the sake of filling their cup in that area. And when we learn to do that for each other well, it pays back in dividends, because then everybody's cup is more nourished, everybody's cup is more full. And if the relationship is good, then there's some reciprocity, and then everybody becomes more nourished, more satisfied, more pleased. And that likely is going to lead to more connection, which is going to lead to more pleasure, which is likely to lead to more orgasms and more pleasure and more nourishment and orgasms and pleasure, etc.
Perfect. Before we go, especially because we've now done all 5 of our blueprint types, are there any blueprint types that you think are particularly incompatible?
So according to Jaya, and I agree with this, there's no such thing as sexual incompatibility as long as the people who are wanting to relate with each other are willing to do the work. If someone's not willing to give and not willing to step outside of their comfort zone, that is where it can become an incompatibility. But that's really what the marker is. If everybody involved is willing to show up and learn some new tools, learn some new techniques, learn how to expand their maybe narrow view of what sex is or what pleasure is, so that they can meet their partner where they're at, there's no such thing as sexual incompatibility. Now, that being said, there are 2 types that are the most common ones to like feel like ships passing in the night, and they just can't find how to meet without some more training, learning, and understanding. And that's the energetic type with the sexual type. Yeah, because the energetic type really thrives on space, tease, anticipation, build up, and can be overwhelmed by too much directness, by direct genital stimulation, by too much body stimulation. The energetic type will quickly shut down when the sexual type is going after getting their needs met. So for a sexual type, their get me in the mood, horny arousal might be to go straight to grab breasts or grab asses or grab genitals. And if you do that to an energetic type, the energetic type is going to be like, whoa, ooh, shut down, no, close doors. What often frequently happens in those relationships is the energetic type doesn't always understand how their own eroticism and arousal work, because we're not taught this. This is not something that we are given information and understanding about. And this is actually one of the blueprint types that when people learn this about themselves, that they're an energetic type, and learn what it feels like to nourish themselves in that way, it can be the most transformational, because they thought they were just weird and wrong and different, that they didn't want things penetrating their body, or that they didn't want to use their genitals to penetrate another body. They can think that's weird because, let's face it, that's not what we're taught or shown in our culture. So once an energetic type can understand more about who they are and really have the experience of what it feels like to be nourished and pleasured, they can open up so much more. But without that, an energetic type will often try and meet a lover, whether it's a kinky lover or a sexual lover, but the sexual one is the one that tends to be the most direct and focused in one place. They can sometimes, a true sexual type can sometimes have a really narrow view of sexuality. And when that happens, they're like, what is wrong with you? Sex is so simple. You just rub the genitals and it goes yay, and everybody's happy. Where an energetic is like, that is not fun for me. And if an energetic meets a sexual in that place for very long, the energetic just starts to like wither more and more, and eventually they shut down. And if it gets to the point where resentment has built between the two, that can sometimes be a deal breaker. But if people and couples can address that before the resentment is there, and especially before the total shutdown has happened, then all of that can be worked through, because people can learn how to nourish each other in these other types. It's absolutely, these are skills that can be learned. These are perspectives that can be broadened. These are experiences that can be cultivated.
So that's the good news. It doesn't surprise me that those two would struggle. All right. So now you guys have the package. If you want to be able to listen to the 5 blueprints and how to self-pleasure to them back to back, please scroll down for my e-newsletter because I will be sending all of these off to you in a nice little package. Also, I think we discussed we'll have the link to the quiz, so you can figure out what your blueprint type is, or at least get close to that. Now, AveryDean, can you take a moment to tell everybody a little bit more about yourself and where they can find you?
Absolutely. Thanks, Annette. You can find me and a little bit more about me. I have 2 websites, one for my erotic liberation side of my work, and that's www.embodyyoursenses.com. And my Instagram and Facebook handles are also at Embody Your Senses. If you're interested in getting in touch with me or learning a little bit more about the somatic embodiment and trauma resolution and spiritual integration sides of my work, you can find that at www.gorgebodywise.com. My background is in yoga therapy, and I love to help people be more in their bodies, whether it's through eroticism or through meditation and breath and movement and stillness. There are so many beautiful ways to drop into these beautiful bodies, to be more present, and to learn how to be more fully, authentically ourselves so we can bring more of the true us into everything that we do.
Wonderful. And I have opened my coaching books as well. If you are curious about what working with me looks like, you can scroll down to the link below. You can email me at annette@talksexwithannette.com. You can also just go to talksexwithannette.com. Please feel free to reach out with questions. If you have a question or comment, I encourage you to go to the YouTube channel at Annette Benedetti and drop your comment in the video below so we know exactly what the comment is for, which video, which topic the comment or question is about. But you can also email me or scroll down and you will see my SpeakPipe link below. You can send me a voicemail. I always love getting your little voicemails, and I want to make sure you guys get answers to the questions that you have. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you got a lot out of this series. Thank you so much, AveryDean, for walking us through this and taking on this project with me. Until next time, listeners, I will see you in the locker room. Cheers. Do the sex.